Good evening, dear traveler of the mind, and welcome back to this quiet harbor at the edge of the world. The day, with all its noise and its intricate puzzles, has finally released its hold. The sun has painted its last masterpiece across the sky and has now given way to the deep velvet stillness of the night. Let this moment be a gentle closing of a door. Leave the world of doing on the other side and step into this sanctuary of simple being. Take a slow, calming breath in, feeling the cool night air fill you with peace. And as you breathe out, imagine you are not just releasing air but the very chatter of your own thoughts. Let the plans for tomorrow, the reflections on yesterday, the questions without answers, let them all soften, loosen their grip and drift away like dandelion seeds on a gentle breeze. Allow your body to sink deeper into the surface that supports you. Feel the pleasant weight of your limbs, the gentle rhythm of your own heartbeat, a quiet and steady drum in the temple of your being. There is no problem to solve here, no race to be won. There is only this moment, this stillness, and the journey we are about to begin. Tonight, we leave the shores of the heart, with its passionate tides and stormy emotions, and we travel to a different realm altogether. We journey inward, to the vast, quiet landscape of the mind. We seek a different kind of power, a different kind of beauty. We seek the cool, clear, and steady light of wisdom. In our world, we often confuse wisdom with knowledge. Knowledge is the gathering of facts, the accumulation of information. It is like collecting stones, each one a piece of data, a specific truth. We can build great and impressive towers with these stones, structures of logic and learning. But wisdom is something else entirely. Wisdom is not the collecting of the stones, but the understanding of the mountain from which they came. It is the ability to see the grand pattern, the underlying structure that connects all the individual pieces. Knowledge knows what to say. Wisdom knows when to say it. Knowledge is a tool. Wisdom is the steady, skillful hand that wields it. Knowledge can be loud, proud, and certain. Wisdom is often quiet, humble, and patient, content to observe and to understand before it acts. It is this profound guiding light that we seek tonight. And to find it, we must once again turn our gaze to the celestial peak of Mount Olympus, to the pantheon of the gods. For among those beings of immense power, there was one who did not rule through bolts of lightning, tidal waves, or the consuming flames of passion. She ruled through the silent, unshakable power of a perfectly clear and strategic mind. Her name is Athena, the goddess of wisdom, of strategy, of justice, and of the noble crafts that build civilizations. She is a figure of profound calm and immense strength, a goddess whose power is not in the storm, but in the quiet clarity that follows it. She is the deep, still water of a mountain lake, which reflects the heavens with perfect, undisturbed precision. While other gods were moved by impulse and desire, Athena was moved by purpose and design. She saw the world not as a chaotic battleground of emotions, but as a grand, intricate game of strategy, a complex and beautiful tapestry where every thread had its place and its purpose. Her presence is a cool hand on a fevered brow. She is the voice of reason in a heated argument, the moment of sudden insight that solves a problem that has plagued you for days. She is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you have chosen your path, not out of fear or desire, but out of careful, thoughtful consideration. She is the patroness of the philosopher, the strategist, the judge, the artist, and the inventor, all those who seek to bring order to chaos, to find a pattern in the noise, and to build something of lasting value in a fleeting world. To journey into her story is to journey into the very heart of what it means to be civilized. For it is her spirit that guides the building of just laws, the creation of beautiful and useful things, and the courage of the hero who fights not for glory, but for the protection of their home and their people. But do not mistake her calm for weakness. Her wisdom is not passive. She is a warrior goddess, one of the most powerful on Olympus, but her approach to conflict is what sets her apart. She does not revel in the mindless rage of battle. For her, war is a terrible last resort, a complex problem to be solved with the least amount of bloodshed and the greatest amount of strategy. She is the goddess of the victorious defense, of the clever maneuver that outwits a stronger opponent, of the courage that is rooted in conviction rather than in fury. She is the patroness of the thinking soldier, the wise general, and the just peace that follows a necessary conflict. Her story is a testament to the idea that the greatest power in the universe is not brute force, but a clear and focused mind. And her own origin story is the most dramatic proof of this principle. For Athena was not born in the way of other gods or mortals. She was not born of the earth nor of the sea. She was not even born of a mother's womb. The goddess of wisdom was born directly from the mind of a king, from the very source of thought itself. Her birth was a cataclysmic, unprecedented event, a sudden explosion of pure intellect and divine purpose that would shake the foundations of Olympus and announce the arrival of a new and formidable power. So, let your mind become still and clear, like the surface of that mountain lake. Let go of the need to know and simply be open to understand. We are about to witness the most extraordinary birth in all of mythology, a birth that defines the very essence of the goddess we have come to meet. Prepare to enter the court of Zeus, the king of the gods, and to witness the moment when wisdom itself was given a name, a face, and an immortal, unshakable will. This is the story of Athena, and it begins with a headache of cosmic proportions. Our story finds its beginning not in a cradle or a sacred grove, but within the very being of the mightiest of all the gods, Zeus, the king of Olympus, lord of the sky. Zeus was the arbiter of cosmic law, his mind a vast repository of divine knowledge, his thoughts the currents that shaped the destinies of both gods and mortals. But on one particular day, a strange and terrible affliction took hold of him. It began as a dull thrumming behind his eyes, a low echo in the vast chambers of his mind. But soon it grew into a relentless, pounding agony. It was a headache of such titanic proportions that the entire universe seemed to shudder with each pulse of pain. The sky outside the halls of Olympus darkened, and thunder rumbled in the distance, not with the sharp crack of his anger, but with the low, pained groan of his suffering. The other gods grew fearful. They had seen Zeus in his fury and in his joy, but they had never seen him like this, brought to his knees by an internal torment he could not understand or command. The god whose mind held the universe in balance was now at war with his own thoughts. He roared in agony, a sound that shook the marble pillars of his great hall. He knew with a certainty that transcended the pain that this was no ordinary ailment. Something was growing within him, something powerful, alive, and desperate to be born. It was an idea, a concept, a being forged in the crucible of his own divine intellect, and it was now demanding release. Unable to bear the pressure any longer, he called out for Hephaestus, the master craftsman, the only god with the skill and the strength to do what must be done. Hephaestus arrived, his lame leg dragging on the golden floors, his face grim with concern. He carried with him a great heavy axe, its blade forged and sharpened with all his divine skill. With a voice that was a strained whisper, Zeus, the king of all creation, gave a desperate command. He ordered Hephaestus to strike his head, to cleave his immortal skull, and to release whatever was trapped within. Hephaestus hesitated, his heart filled with terror at the thought of striking his own king. But a single look into the tormented eyes of Zeus told him he had no choice. He lifted the great axe, its bronze head gleaming in the dim light of the throne room. The other gods who had gathered watched in horrified silence, shielding their eyes. With all his mighty strength, Hephaestus brought the axe down. The sound was not of bone shattering, but of reality itself splitting apart. A flash of pure white light, more brilliant than 1,000 suns, erupted from the head of Zeus, momentarily blinding every god in the hall. The light was not hot or destructive, but cool, clear, and intensely focused, and from within that impossible, blinding light, a figure stepped forth. She did not emerge as an infant, vulnerable and new. She was born fully formed, a mature and magnificent goddess, her presence radiating an aura of absolute confidence and profound calm. This was Athena. She stood there upon the floor of Olympus, her stature tall and graceful, her form radiating a power that was not of the body, but of the mind. Her most striking feature was her eyes. They were a piercing, intelligent shade of gray, like the color of the sky just before a storm, or the surface of a deep, still sea. They were the eyes of an ancient soul, eyes that seemed to see not just the surface of things, but the intricate patterns and hidden truths that lay beneath. They were eyes that did not burn with passion, but shone with the cool, steady light of pure, unadulterated wisdom. She was not born naked and vulnerable like Aphrodite. She was born prepared. She wore a beautifully crafted helmet upon her head, its crest trailing behind her like a proud banner. In one hand she held a long, perfectly balanced spear, its point gleaming as if it could pierce any falsehood. In the other, she held the aegis, a magnificent shield, not just a tool of defense but a symbol of divine protection, adorned with the fearsome likeness of the Gorgon, Medusa. She was clad in a simple yet elegant robe, over which she wore a gleaming breastplate. She was a vision of controlled strength, of readiness, of a mind and body in perfect harmonious alignment. And then she let out a cry. It was not the cry of a newborn. It was a powerful, clear and resonant war cry, a sound that echoed through the halls of Olympus and out into the wider cosmos. It was not a cry of rage or of pain. It was a declaration. It was the sound of wisdom announcing its arrival in the world. It was a cry of purpose, of clarity, and of the unshakable resolve to bring order to chaos and justice to the world. The effect was instantaneous. Zeus's debilitating headache vanished, replaced by a feeling of profound relief and overwhelming awe. The dark clouds outside parted, and the clear light of day once more streamed into the hall. The other gods, lowering their hands from their eyes, stared in stunned silence. They had just witnessed the impossible, a being born not from the womb but from pure thought, a goddess who was, in the most literal sense, the brainchild of their king. Zeus looked upon this magnificent goddess, who stood before him, her grey eyes meeting his with an intelligence that matched his own, and in that moment he knew he was not looking at a rival or a subject. He was looking at his favorite child, the one who was the truest extension of his own divine mind. She was the embodiment of his wisdom, his strategy, his sense of cosmic order, now given her own immortal form and will. Her birth was her defining story, the key to understanding all that she was. She was not a product of earthly passions or chaotic elemental forces. She was the daughter of the mind. Her allegiance was to logic, to reason, to strategy, and to the cool, clear light of intellectual truth. She would forever be a goddess of control, of purpose, of the deliberate and thoughtful path. And so, Athena, the goddess of wisdom, took her first breath of celestial air, her war cry still echoing in the silent, awestruck hall. A new and formidable power had arrived on Olympus, one that would guide heroes, build cities, and forever champion the unshakable power of the mind. The echoes of Athena's first great war cry faded, leaving behind a profound and reverent silence in the grand throne room of Olympus. The blinding light of her birth had softened, and now the assembled gods could truly behold the goddess who stood before them. She was a presence unlike any they had ever known, a new and startling note in the divine harmony of their existence. Her most captivating feature, the one that would be sung of by poets for 1,000 years, was her eyes. They were not the soft sea blue of a nymph or the fiery, passionate brown of a mortal queen. Her eyes were a clear, luminous, and startling shade of grey. They were the colour of a dawn mist over a still lake, the colour of a wise old owl's feathers, the colour of the sky on a thoughtful, overcast day. They were the eyes of a strategist, constantly observing, analysing, seeing the hidden patterns in all things. They were the eyes of a judge, cool and impartial, capable of seeing the truth through any veil of deception. And they were the eyes of a deep thinker, reflecting a calm inner world of profound intellectual depth. The other gods felt that when she looked at them, she was not merely seeing their form, but reading the very thoughts in their minds, the intentions in their hearts. It was a gaze that commanded not fear, in the way that Zeus's anger might, but a deep and unwavering respect. They called her Glaucopis, the grey-eyed goddess, a name that spoke of her wisdom and her piercing, insightful gaze. She stood tall and poised, her divine armor gleaming in the celestial light. It was not the heavy, brutal armor of Ares, which smelled of battle and strife. Her armor was a work of art, both beautiful and functional, its lines clean and purposeful. It represented not the love of war, but the necessity of a prepared and strategic defense. Her spear was not a weapon of aggression, but a tool of justice, a symbol of the pointed, direct nature of truth. Her beauty was not the soft, alluring beauty of Aphrodite, which was designed to captivate the heart and overwhelm the senses. Athena's was a different kind of beauty. It was a stern, noble, and intelligent beauty, a beauty found in perfect symmetry, in a confident and serene expression, in a form that radiated strength, competence, and a profound sense of self-possession. It was a beauty that did not ask for adoration, but instead commanded admiration. Zeus, his heart swelling with a paternal pride he had never before experienced, stepped down from his throne. He approached this daughter born of his own mind and placed a hand upon her shoulder. In that moment, the entire pantheon understood her place. She was not a lesser goddess who would have to earn her position. She was, by virtue of her very birth, a being of the highest order, the direct emanation of the mind of their king. She was his wisdom made manifest. He declared her his favorite, his most trusted counselor. He granted her the unique privilege of being the only one of his children ever allowed to wield his thunderbolts, a symbol of the ultimate trust he placed in her judgment and her steady hand. The other gods, sensing the profound shift in the cosmic balance, welcomed her, each in their own way. Hera, the proud queen, who was so often jealous of Zeus's other children, looked upon Athena with a rare and complex approval. For Athena was not the product of a secret, passionate affair. She was born of the mind alone, a being of pure intellect, and therefore posed no threat to Hera's domain over marriage and family. In Athena, Hera saw an ally, a goddess of order and of the high ideals of civilization. Apollo, the god of prophecy and music, recognized in her a fellow intellectual, a being who understood that harmony, whether in a song or in a battle plan, came from understanding the underlying patterns of the universe. Even Ares, the god of war, looked upon her with a grudging respect. He did not understand her methods. He found her patience and her reliance on strategy to be a strange and foreign concept. But he could not deny the aura of power that surrounded her. He saw in her a warrior of a different kind, a force that was not his opposite but his necessary counterpart, the mind that must guide the sword. And so Athena took her place in the celestial court. She did not seek a king or a consort, for her completeness was within herself. She was a maiden goddess, whole and independent, her devotion given not to a husband, but to her purpose, to the cultivation of wisdom, the defense of justice, and the advancement of civilization. She moved through the halls of Olympus with a quiet, confident grace. Her voice was never raised in anger, but when she spoke, her words were so clear, so logical, and so insightful that even Zeus himself would fall silent and listen. She became the divine strategist, the one the gods turned to when faced with a problem that could not be solved by brute force. She was the celestial chess master, always seeing 10 moves ahead, her mind a calm and orderly fortress in the midst of the gods' often chaotic emotional storms. Her arrival on Olympus was not a disruption. It was a completion. She was the missing piece, the embodiment of the cool, clear reason that was needed to balance the fiery passions, the deep-seated grudges, and the flighty whims of the other gods. She was the steady, unwavering light of the mind, and her presence made the divine pantheon and the cosmos itself more whole, more balanced, and more complete. Every god and goddess on Olympus held sway over a piece of the mortal and immortal worlds. Poseidon commanded the wild, unpredictable sea. Demeter ruled the fertile, life-giving earth, and Apollo governed the sunlit realms of prophecy and music. Athena's domain was just as vast, but it was less a place and more a principle. She was the guardian of the faculties that lift humanity from chaos to civilization, the divine patroness of the thoughtful, deliberate, and skillful aspects of existence. Her most famous role was that of a warrior goddess, but to call her a goddess of war is to tell only half the story. That title belonged to her half-brother Ares, and the difference between them was as profound as the difference between a wildfire and a carefully controlled flame. Ares was the god of war's brutal, chaotic heart. He was the embodiment of rage, of bloodlust, of the mindless fury of the battlefield. He reveled in the clash of metal, the cries of the fallen, the sheer destructive spectacle of it all. He represented war as a destructive passion. Athena, however, was the goddess of war's brilliant strategic mind. She took no joy in destruction. For her, conflict was a grave and complex problem, a last resort to be undertaken only for a just cause, to defend a home, to protect the innocent, to uphold the law. She represented war as a disciplined science. When she entered a conflict, it was not with a roar of rage, but with a quiet, focused calm. She was the goddess of the clever feint, the brilliant defensive formation, the unexpected maneuver that could win a battle with minimal loss of life. Mortals prayed to Ares for the strength to kill, but they prayed to Athena for the wisdom to win. She was the patroness not of the berserker, but of the thinking general, the one who understood that the greatest victory is not the one that destroys the enemy, but the one that achieves a lasting and honorable peace. Flowing directly from this was her role as a goddess of justice. While Zeus was the ultimate arbiter of divine law, Athena was its most thoughtful and compassionate practitioner. She was particularly concerned with justice in the human realm, in the carefully constructed courts and councils of cities. She was the patroness of the fair trial, of reasoned argument, and of the verdict that is based not on emotion or prejudice, but on evidence and law. It was said that she founded the first great court of law in the city of Athens, the Areopagus, to try a case of profound moral complexity. In this, she taught humanity a vital lesson, that even the most terrible disputes, the ones born of vengeance and grief, could be resolved not through an endless cycle of violence, but through the calm, reasoned, and communal process of law. She was the divine force that guided mortals to look beyond their personal desire for revenge and towards the higher goal of a just and orderly society. Her justice was not cold and unfeeling. It was wise, compassionate, and always aimed at healing the wounds of the community. But perhaps her most beloved domain, the one that touched the daily lives of ordinary people most directly, was her role as the goddess of crafts. Athena was a divine artisan, a master of all skills that required intelligence, patience, and a deft hand. She was the patroness of the potter, shaping clay into useful and beautiful vessels. She was the guardian of the shipwright, whose careful calculations allowed humanity to sail the seas. She was the inspiration for the sculptor, the architect, and the metalworker. In every act of skillful creation, Athena's spirit was present. She represented the profound satisfaction that comes from making something well, the quiet dignity of skilled labor, and the way that practical arts can beautify and ennoble human life. Her personal specialty, the craft in which she was the undisputed master, was weaving. For her, the loom was a microcosm of the universe itself. The vertical threads, the warp, were the fixed laws of existence, the unchangeable truths. The horizontal threads, the weft, which she skillfully wove in and out, were the choices, the actions, the strategies that one could employ within those laws. To weave a beautiful and intricate tapestry was, for her, a form of thinking, a tangible expression of bringing order and beauty out of a collection of simple threads. It was an act of creation that required foresight, patience, and a deep understanding of pattern and structure. And so, Athena's domain was the very essence of civilization. It was the strategic defense that kept a city safe, the just laws that allowed its people to live in peace, and the skillful crafts that filled their homes with beauty and their lives with purpose. She was not a goddess of a single element, but of a complex and interconnected system of ideas. She was the divine mind that guided human hands, the celestial strategist who championed the cause of order, and the quiet, powerful force that tirelessly worked to build a world that was not only strong, but also just, wise, and beautiful. To truly understand the essence of a god, one must look to the symbols they chose, the living emblems that nature itself provided as a reflection of their divine spirit. While Aphrodite had her doves and roses, Athena's companions were quieter, more thoughtful, their beauty residing not in their outward splendor, but in their deep and profound meaning. Her two most sacred symbols were a creature of the night and a humble, resilient tree, the owl and the olive. First, there was the owl. Imagine a dense, ancient forest in the deep of night. The world is cloaked in an almost absolute darkness, a realm of shadows and uncertainty where most creatures are blind, lost, and vulnerable. But then from a high branch, two large luminous eyes open. They are not like other eyes. They are designed for the darkness. They can see what others cannot, piercing through the gloom with an effortless and unnerving clarity. A head turns, almost in a full circle, able to perceive the world from every possible angle. This is the little owl, the sacred bird of Athena. This creature was her perfect animal counterpart. The owl's ability to see clearly in the dark was, for the ancient Greeks, a powerful metaphor for wisdom itself. Wisdom is not just seeing what is obvious in the bright light of day. True wisdom, Athena's wisdom, is the ability to see the truth in times of confusion and uncertainty, to see the path forward when all seems dark and hopeless. It is the power of insight, the capacity to look past the surface of a problem and perceive the hidden structures, the secret motivations, the subtle patterns that others miss. The owl does not fly in a frantic, hurried flock. It is a creature of solitude, of quiet observation. It sits patiently on its perch, watching, listening, gathering information before it acts. This too was the way of Athena. Her wisdom was not loud or impulsive. It was born of quiet contemplation, of patient and thorough analysis. She was the goddess who understood that the most powerful action is always preceded by the deepest thought. When an owl was seen in ancient Greece, it was considered a sign of Athena's presence, a message from the goddess. For a general planning a battle, it was an omen of a clever strategy to come. For a judge deliberating a difficult case, it was a promise of insight and clarity. Her little owl, with its silent flight and all-seeing eyes, was a constant reminder that even in the deepest darkness, wisdom provides its own unwavering light. Her second symbol was the humble and powerful olive tree. Picture a gnarled, ancient olive tree standing on a sun-drenched rocky hillside in Greece. Its trunk is thick and twisted, a testament to the centuries of storms and droughts it has endured. Its leaves are a soft, silvery green, shimmering gently in the warm breeze. And nestled among its branches are small, precious fruits, the olives, which hold within them a wealth of nourishment and light. If the owl represented her intellectual, strategic insight, the olive tree represented her practical, life-sustaining wisdom. It was a symbol of peace. In times of war, olive groves were often the first casualties cut down by invading armies. To cultivate an olive tree was an act of faith in a peaceful future, for it takes many years to grow and bear fruit. The olive branch, offered from one leader to another, became the universal symbol of peace, a direct tribute to Athena's preference for reasoned harmony over violent conflict. The tree was also a symbol of profound resilience. It could grow in poor rocky soil where other crops would fail. It could survive long hot summers with little water, and even if the main trunk was cut down, new shoots would often spring forth from the roots, ensuring its survival. This was the nature of the wisdom Athena championed. It is not fragile. It is tough, enduring, and capable of regenerating even after the most devastating setbacks. And finally, the olive tree was a symbol of prosperity. From its fruit came olive oil, a substance of immense value to the ancient world. It was a source of food, providing nourishment. It was a source of fuel, its oil burning in lamps to bring light to the darkness. And it was used as a lotion, to heal and to cleanse the body. The olive tree was a pure, unselfish gift. It took little from the earth, but it gave back so much, providing all the essential elements for a civilized and prosperous life. Food, light and healing, these two symbols, the all-seeing owl and the life-giving olive tree, formed the two halves of Athena's divine soul. One was the symbol of the sharp, analytical mind, the power of seeing the truth. The other was the symbol of the calm, generative spirit, the power of creating a peaceful and prosperous life. Together, they represent the ultimate goal of wisdom, to see the world with perfect clarity, and to use that clarity not for selfish gain, but for the cultivation of peace, resilience, and the well-being of all. In the early days of the world, when the earth was still a fresh and wondrous canvas, a new and beautiful city was founded in the rocky, sun-kissed lands of Greece. It was a city of great potential, nestled among hills of limestone and looking out over the sparkling Aegean Sea. Such a promising city could not be left without a divine patron, a guardian to watch over it and guide its destiny. Two of the most powerful gods on Olympus both laid claim to this new city, each believing they were the more worthy protector. The first was Poseidon, the mighty lord of the sea, brother of Zeus. He was a god of immense and untamed power. His footsteps could shake the very foundations of the earth, and with a strike of his great trident, he could summon earthquakes and tidal waves. He represented the raw elemental forces of nature, the strength of the ocean, the wealth of trade, and the power of a great naval empire. The second was Athena, the newly risen goddess of wisdom. She did not command the earth to tremble or the seas to roar. Her power was quieter, more cerebral. She represented the strength of the mind, the wisdom of good governance, the prosperity that comes from skill and craft, and the security that is born of clever strategy. The rivalry between the god of the sea and the goddess of the mind was intense. To settle the matter and prevent a devastating conflict, the other gods of Olympus decreed that a contest should be held. Each of the two claimants would present a single gift to the city and its people. The citizens, and in some tales the gods themselves, would then judge which gift was the more valuable, the more useful, for the future of their home. The winner would become the city's eternal patron. The contest was to take place on the high, flat rock of the Acropolis, which overlooked the fledgling city. The gods and the earliest kings of the land gathered to bear witness. Poseidon, full of confidence in his own magnificent power, went first. He strode to the center of the Acropolis, his bronze trident gleaming in the sunlight. With a mighty roar that echoed the sound of a crashing wave, he struck the hard rock of the hill with the 3 prongs of his weapon. The earth groaned and shuddered. The rock split asunder, and from the newly formed chasm a spring of water burst forth, gushing and spraying into the air. The people marveled at the display of sheer power. A source of water on this high, dry rock was a true miracle. But as they rushed forward to taste the gift, their faces fell. The water was salty, as briny as the sea from which Poseidon ruled. It was a powerful and magical spring, a testament to his domain over the waters of the world, but it was not fit to drink. It was a symbol of naval power of the sea, but it could not quench a simple thirst. Then it was Athena's turn. She did not approach with a roar or a grand display of force. She walked forward with a quiet, confident grace, her grey eyes calm and thoughtful. She carried no weapon in her hand, only a small, simple seed. She knelt down and with a gentle gesture, she planted the seed in the earth of the Acropolis, not far from Poseidon's saltwater spring. Then she stood and simply touched the ground with the tip of her spear. What happened next was not a violent explosion of power, but a slow, graceful, and beautiful miracle. From the spot where she had planted the seed, a small green shoot began to emerge. The gathered crowd watched in silent fascination as the shoot grew, reaching for the sky. It grew taller and thicker, its trunk becoming strong and gnarled, its branches spreading outwards. Silvery green leaves sprouted and unfurled, shimmering in the gentle breeze. And finally, upon its branches, small green fruits began to appear. In the space of a few moments, she had created the world's very first olive tree. She turned to the assembled judges, her voice calm and clear. She explained her gift. She spoke not of its magical origin, but of its practical, enduring worth. She explained that this tree, the olive, would be their source of food, its fruit providing nourishment. She showed them how its wood could be used to build homes and to fuel their fires. And she explained that from its pressed fruit would come a golden oil, an oil that could be used to light their lamps in the darkness, to cook their meals and to heal their bodies. Her gift was not a symbol of untamed power. It was a promise of a sustainable future. It was a gift of peace, of prosperity, of nourishment and of light. It required cultivation and patience, but its rewards would sustain the city for generations to come. The choice was clear. The assembled gods and mortals looked at Poseidon's powerful but undrinkable spring, and then they looked at Athena's humble but life-giving tree. They understood the profound wisdom in her choice. While Poseidon had offered them a symbol of his own greatness, Athena had offered them a tool for their own survival and prosperity. With a unified voice, they declared Athena the winner of the contest. The city was named Athens in her honor, and she became its eternal guardian. The olive tree, her living symbol of wisdom and peace, would forever be sacred to its people. Her quiet, thoughtful, and profoundly useful gift had won the day, proving in this first and most important contest that the enduring power of wisdom will always triumph over the fleeting spectacle of brute force. Athena's wisdom was not reserved solely for the grand contests of the gods or the founding of great cities. Her most profound influence was often felt in the quiet, desperate moments of a single human life. She was the patroness of heroes, but she was not drawn to the boastful, muscle-bound warrior who sought only glory and fame. Her chosen champions were of a different sort. They were the clever, the resourceful, the resilient, the heroes who relied on their wits as much as their strength, and of all the mortal heroes who ever lived, none was more beloved by her. None shared a closer bond with the goddess of wisdom than the great Odysseus, the cunning king of Ithaca. Their relationship was unique in all of mythology. It was not the passionate, tumultuous affair of a god and a mortal, nor was it the distant relationship of a deity and a mere worshipper. It was a partnership, a bond built on a deep and abiding mutual respect. Athena saw in Odysseus a reflection of her own values. He was a master strategist, a silver-tongued orator, a man who could think his way out of any trap and whose ultimate goal was not conquest, but simply to return to his home and his family. He was a hero of the mind, and Odysseus, in turn, saw in Athena not just a powerful goddess to be feared, but a wise and trusted mentor, a divine guide whose counsel he valued above all else. Throughout Odysseus's long and perilous journey home after the Trojan War, Athena was his constant, though often invisible, companion. She did not simply wave her hand and solve his problems for him. That was not her way. Her wisdom taught that strength, both of character and of mind, is forged in struggle. To simply remove the obstacles from his path would be to rob him of the chance to grow, to learn and to prove his own worth. Instead, her intervention was subtle, strategic, and always designed to empower him, not to replace his own efforts. When Odysseus was trapped on the island of the beautiful nymph Calypso, who had held him captive for 7 long years, it was Athena who flew to Olympus and made a passionate, reasoned plea to her father, Zeus. She argued for Odysseus's cause not with tears but with logic, reminding the gods of his piety, his cleverness, and his right to return to his own home. It was her well-reasoned argument that finally convinced Zeus to send Hermes to command his release. When Odysseus, shipwrecked and alone, washed ashore on the land of the Phaeacians, exhausted and near death, it was Athena who came to the Princess Nausicaa in a dream. She did not command the princess to help him. Instead, she disguised her voice as that of a friend, and suggested that Nausicaa go down to the river to wash her linens, a simple, plausible suggestion that would put her in the perfect place to discover and aid the desperate hero. It was a nudge, a gentle manipulation of events, a perfect strategic move. And when Odysseus finally returned to his home, Ithaca, after 20 long years, he did not recognize it, for it had changed so much. It was Athena who appeared to him, at first disguised as a young shepherd. She did not reveal herself immediately. Instead, she engaged him in a battle of wits, a playful contest of clever stories and false identities. And when Odysseus, ever cautious, matched her lie for lie, her heart swelled with pride and affection. She dropped her disguise, revealing her true divine form. And in that moment they were not goddess and mortal, but 2 old friends, 2 master strategists smiling at each other in mutual admiration. She did not just give him a plan. She worked with him to create one. Together they sat at the foot of a sacred olive tree, and like 2 generals planning a campaign, they devised the intricate, brilliant strategy that would allow Odysseus to reclaim his throne from the arrogant suitors who had infested his palace. She would disguise him as an old, broken beggar, allowing him to enter his own home unnoticed, to assess the situation, to see who had remained loyal and who had betrayed him. It was a plan that relied not on overwhelming force, but on intelligence, patience, and a deep understanding of human nature. Throughout it all, she was his source of inner strength. In his moments of doubt, she would appear, her calm presence and wise words a balm to his weary soul. She would remind him of who he was, of the strength of his own mind and of the justness of his cause. She was the quiet voice of reason in his ear, the steadying hand on his shoulder. Their bond was the ultimate expression of Athena's domain. She was not a goddess who demanded blind obedience. She was a mentor who fostered intelligence, a guide who encouraged resourcefulness, and a partner who respected the free will and the clever mind of her chosen hero. Her relationship with Odysseus was a testament to her belief that true heroism is a collaboration between divine inspiration and human ingenuity, a perfect harmony between the wisdom of the gods and the resilient, clever spirit of humankind. While Athena's guidance shaped the minds of heroes and the laws of cities, her spirit also dwelled in quieter, more focused places. It lived in the humble workshops of the potter, the dusty yards of the shipwright, and most of all in the rhythmic, patient world of the weaver. For of all the crafts she patronized, weaving was the one she held most sacred, the art that was the truest expression of her own divine mind. To the modern world, weaving may seem a simple domestic craft, but to the ancient Greeks, it was a profound and magical act of creation, a microcosm of the universe itself. And Athena was its undisputed master. Imagine the great loom of the goddess, standing in a quiet, sunlit chamber on Olympus. It is not made of simple wood, but of polished silver and ivory, its frame as strong and as perfectly balanced as a temple. The threads that hang from it, the warp, are not of wool or of linen. They seem to be spun from the very fabric of existence, Some shine with the light of stars, others hold the deep blue of the twilight sky or the soft green of a new spring leaf. These threads represent the fixed and unchanging laws of the cosmos, the eternal truths that form the structure of reality. And then, watch as Athena begins her work. She does not move with frantic energy, but with a serene, focused, and deeply intelligent grace. In her hands she holds the shuttle, which carries the weft, the threads that will move in and out of the fixed warp. These threads are the threads of story, of action, of choice. With each pass of the shuttle, a new line of color and texture is added to the tapestry. A thread of brilliant gold might depict the heroic deed of a champion. A thread of deep, sorrowful crimson could represent a tragic love. A thread of pure, peaceful white might illustrate a moment of divine harmony. Her work is a form of thinking made visible. It requires foresight to plan the intricate design, patience to execute each row with perfect precision, and a deep understanding of how each individual thread contributes to the beauty and the strength of the whole. A single mistake, a single thread out of place, could unravel the entire pattern. For Athena, weaving was the art of bringing order and a beautiful, coherent story out of a collection of separate, meaningless strands. It was strategy, creativity, and logic, all combined in a single, graceful act. The tapestries she wove were the stuff of legend. They were not mere decorations. They were living histories, visual philosophies. She could weave the story of the creation of the world, with all its primordial chaos and emerging order. She could weave the tale of the great war between the gods and the titans, each figure so lifelike they seemed to breathe. And she could weave images of profound beauty and peace. A perfect olive grove under a silver moon, its leaves so delicately rendered you could almost feel the cool night breeze. Her skill was a gift she shared generously with humankind. She was the one who first taught mortal women the secrets of the loom, the art of spinning wool into thread, and of weaving that thread into fabric that could clothe, warm, and beautify their lives. She was the patroness of every woman who sat at her loom. Her presence felt in the rhythmic clatter of the shuttle and the quiet satisfaction of seeing a beautiful pattern emerge from her own hard work. She honored the skill and the dedication of these mortal artisans. For her, a well-made cloak was as much a work of art as a great temple. A perfectly woven sail that could carry a ship safely across the sea was as praiseworthy as a hero's sword. She understood that civilization is built not just on grand battles and lofty laws, but on the accumulated skill, patience, and creativity of its ordinary people. Working quietly in their homes and workshops, the act of weaving became a sacred metaphor for her domain. A just law was like a strong, well-woven fabric, with each thread of the community held in a fair and balanced pattern. A successful battle plan was like a complex tapestry, with every unit, every maneuver, woven together into a single, cohesive strategy. Athena, the divine weaver, was the ultimate creator of patterns. She saw the threads of fate, the strands of possibility, and with her divine intellect she sought to weave them into the most beautiful, the most orderly, and the most enduring designs possible. Her loom was where her mind and her hands worked in perfect harmony, a quiet testament to her belief that the most profound act of wisdom is, and will always be, the act of creation. The gifts of a god are a sacred and powerful thing, but they can also be a heavy burden. And so it was with the art of weaving, the skill that Athena had so generously bestowed upon humankind. For in the land of Lydia, there lived a young woman named Arachne, who had received the goddess's gift in astonishing measure. Arachne was not a princess, nor was she of high birth. She was a simple maiden, the daughter of a humble dyer of wool. But her skill at the loom was anything but simple. It was miraculous. Her hands did not seem to move over the threads. They danced. The shuttle flew back and forth in a blur of motion, and behind it, images of such breathtaking beauty and lifelike detail appeared that it seemed to be a form of magic. People would come from all over the land just to watch her work. Nymphs from the forests and from the rivers would creep out of their hidden homes to gaze in silent wonder at the tapestries she created. Her fame spread like a wildfire, and with it a dangerous seed began to sprout in her heart, the seed of pride. At first, it was a quiet confidence in her own skill, but soon it grew into a loud and reckless arrogance. When those who watched her whispered that surely she must have been taught by the great Athena herself, Arachne would scoff. "Taught by Athena?" she would say, her voice sharp with disdain. Let her come and compete with me. If I lose, I will accept any punishment she deems fit. My skill is my own. There is no one, mortal or divine, who can match me." Far away on Mount Olympus, Athena heard these boastful words, and they did not fill her with the hot rage that might have consumed another god. Instead, they filled her with a deep and profound sadness. She saw in Arachne a brilliant talent that was being corrupted by a foolish and dangerous pride. She saw a mortal who had forgotten the source of her gift, who had mistaken her own skill for a sign of her own divinity. And so, Athena decided to give the young woman a chance to save herself. She descended to the mortal world, but not in her own glorious form. She disguised herself as an old, stooped woman, her face lined with the wisdom of many years, her hair as white as carded wool. Leaning heavily on a wooden staff, she approached Arachne as she sat weaving, surrounded by her admirers. With a voice that was gentle but firm, the old woman offered a quiet word of counsel. "My child," she said, "seek all the fame you desire among mortals for your incredible skill, but it is a wise thing to give way to the gods. Humbly ask the goddess for forgiveness for your arrogant words. She is merciful and will surely grant it." Arachne stopped her work and glared at the old woman, her eyes flashing with anger. "Keep your wisdom for your own kin," she snapped. "I need no advice. I have said what I have said. Why does your goddess not come herself? Why does she shy away from a contest with me?" A deep sigh of sorrow escaped the old woman's lips. "She is here," she said. And in an instant, the stooped elderly form dissolved, replaced by the tall, majestic and awe-inspiring presence of the goddess Athena. Her grey eyes were not filled with anger, but with a deep, sorrowful disappointment. The nymphs and the onlookers gasped and fell to their knees in reverence. But Arachne, though her face grew pale, stood her ground. Her pride would not let her back down. A challenge had been issued, and a challenge would be met. And so the greatest and most tragic weaving contest in all of mythology began. Two looms were set up side by side. Athena, with a calm and deliberate grace, began to weave her tapestry. Her design was a tribute to the majesty of the gods and the wisdom of divine order. In the center, she depicted her own great contest with Poseidon for the city of Athens, a story of a wise and peaceful gift triumphing over brute force. And in the four corners, she wove smaller cautionary tales, images of mortals who had dared to challenge the gods and had met with terrible fates. Her work was a masterpiece of beauty, harmony, and a clear, stern warning. Arachne, for her part, worked with a furious, defiant energy. Her skill was undeniable. Her tapestry was a work of breathtaking, almost blasphemous genius. But her subject matter was a direct insult to the gods. She chose to weave stories of the gods' follies, their deceptions, their moments of weakness and cruelty. It was a tapestry that was technically perfect, but its soul was filled with mockery and disrespect. It was a brilliant and bitter critique of divine authority. When both were finished, even Athena herself in her heart could not deny the flawless technical perfection of Arachne's work. But she looked upon the disrespectful scenes the mortal had woven, and her deep sorrow finally gave way to a righteous anger. This was not just pride. It was a profound and unforgivable impiety. She struck Arachne's tapestry with her shuttle, and the beautiful, blasphemous work tore and dissolved into threads. And then she touched the forehead of Arachne herself. She did not strike her down. She did not turn her to stone. She bestowed upon her a fate that was far more subtle and far more tragic. She cursed Arachne and her descendants for all time with an eternal, insatiable desire to weave. A terrible transformation began. Arachne's body shrank. Her limbs grew long and spindly, her fingers fused together. She was changed into the world's first spider. Her skill remained, but now it was her entire existence. She was doomed to spend the rest of her days hanging from a single thread, endlessly spinning and weaving the most intricate and beautiful of webs, only to see them torn apart by a careless hand or a passing breeze. Athena turned away, her heart heavy. She had not wanted this outcome. She had wanted to teach a lesson, not to destroy a life. The tale of Arachne became a quiet, sorrowful reminder, whispered throughout the ages, that a gift, no matter how great, must be tempered with humility, and that the beautiful, intricate tapestry of the cosmos is woven by forces far greater than any single mortal hand. The wisdom of Athena, like the light of a star, was often a source of guidance, clarity, and hope. But sometimes, in the face of a tragedy so profound and a violation so complete, her wisdom was forced to manifest in a form that was as terrible as it was just. It is in these shadowed corners of mythology that we find one of her most misunderstood and heartbreaking stories, the origin of the Gorgon, Medusa. Before the hissing snakes, before the gaze that could turn men to stone, Medusa was not a monster. She was a mortal woman, a priestess in the service of Athena, renowned throughout the land for a beauty that was said to rival the goddesses themselves. Her most celebrated feature was her hair, a magnificent cascade of silky, flowing locks that shone like polished bronze in the sun. She was devout and had sworn a life of chastity and service in Athena's sacred temple. Her beauty, meant to be a testament to the grace of the goddess she served, instead attracted the unwanted and aggressive attentions of Poseidon, the mighty god of the sea. Poseidon, who still held a deep and bitter rivalry with Athena, saw in Medusa not a devout priestess to be respected, but a prize to be taken, a way to defile the sacred space of his rival. He pursued her relentlessly, and one day, in a terrible act of violence and sacrilege, he assaulted her within the very walls of Athena's holy temple. It was an act that violated not only a mortal woman, but the sanctity of the divine, a desecration of the highest order. Athena, watching from Olympus, was filled with a feeling that went beyond mere anger. It was a cold, profound, and sorrowful rage. A rage at Poseidon for his unforgivable crime against her priestess and her sacred space. But it was also a deep and aching grief for Medusa herself. She saw the young woman's innocence shattered, her faith broken, her life forever scarred by the brutal actions of a powerful god, and Athena knew the cruel ways of the world. She knew that Medusa, the victim, would be blamed. She knew that her beauty, which had attracted Poseidon's gaze, would now be seen as a curse, a temptation. She knew that other men, emboldened by the god's actions, would continue to pursue her, seeing her not as a person deserving of compassion, but as a conquest. Medusa would never know a moment's peace again, and so Athena was faced with a terrible choice, a strategic problem of the soul. How could she protect Medusa now? How could she grant her a power so absolute that no one would ever dare to harm her again? The solution that her cold, clear, strategic mind devised was born of a terrible, sorrowful necessity. It was an act that the world would call a curse, but which was, in its own grim way, a form of divine protective armor. She descended to her desecrated temple. She found the weeping Medusa, huddled in the shadows, and with a heavy heart, she began a terrible transformation. She took from Medusa the very beauty that had been the cause of her suffering. The magnificent flowing hair that had been her pride began to writhe and twist, each lock thickening, hardening, becoming a hissing, venomous serpent. Her soft skin took on a strange, scaly sheen. Her face, once a vision of mortal grace, became a mask of terrifying power, her eyes glowing with a cold, deadly light. And finally, Athena bestowed upon her the ultimate, terrible defense. She decreed that any living man who looked directly into Medusa's eyes would be instantly turned to stone, his lust or aggression frozen forever into an eternal monument of his own transgression. To the outside world, it looked as though Athena was punishing the victim for the sacrilege that had occurred in her temple. But in the sorrowful eyes of the goddess, it was a different act entirely. She had taken a shattered victim and transformed her into a figure of such terrifying power that she would never be vulnerable again. She had taken away her beauty, which had proven to be a magnet for violence, and replaced it with a fearsome weapon that would guarantee her solitude and her safety. It was a grim and heartbreaking gift. Medusa was now safe, but she was also utterly alone, forever exiled from the world of human warmth and affection. She had become a monster to save herself from the monstrosity of others. This tragic story reveals the coldest, most pragmatic side of Athena's wisdom. It is a lesson that sometimes protection is not gentle. Sometimes survival requires a transformation so complete that the person you once were is lost forever. It is a dark and sorrowful testament to the goddess's understanding of a cruel world, and the terrible, heartbreaking measures that are sometimes necessary to defend the innocent, even if that defense looks to all the world like a curse. The stories of Athena, filled with the clang of the loom, the clash of divine wills, and the quiet footfalls of heroes, are all woven around a single golden thread: It is the thread that separates her from all other gods, the principle that guides her every action, from the founding of a city to the transformation of a priestess. It is the profound and everlasting lesson of the difference between knowledge and wisdom. As you lie here, floating in the quiet space between wakefulness and sleep, consider these two words. They seem so similar, yet they are as different as a map is from the journey itself. Knowledge is the gathering of light. It is the tireless collection of facts, of figures, of stories, of information. It is the building of a great and magnificent library in the mind, its shelves lined with countless scrolls, each one detailing a piece of the world. Knowledge is knowing that the seasons change. It is knowing the names of all the stars in the night sky. It is knowing the history of a great battle, every tactic, every loss, every victory. Knowledge is a vast and impressive treasure, a testament to a curious and active mind. But wisdom is the understanding of that light. Wisdom is not found in the library, but in the quiet sunlit garden outside. It is not in the collecting of the scrolls, but in the knowing of which scroll to read and when. Wisdom is understanding why the seasons change, and knowing how to plant the seeds and reap the harvest in harmony with that eternal rhythm. It is not just knowing the names of the stars, but understanding how to navigate by their steady light on a dark and moonless night. It is not just knowing the history of a battle, but understanding the human hearts, the pride and the fear that led to it, and learning how to avoid the next one. Knowledge is a tool. Wisdom is the mastery of that tool. It is the deep intuitive understanding of context, of consequence, of the subtle interconnected patterns that weave our world together. Athena was the goddess of both, but her ultimate allegiance was always to wisdom. She honored the craftsman's knowledge of his materials, the general's knowledge of his troops, but she saved her greatest blessings for those who could look beyond the facts and see the deeper truth. She saw mortals and gods alike who were brilliant yet foolish. They could build great ships, but lacked the wisdom to respect the sea's power. They could amass great armies, but lacked the wisdom to seek a peaceful resolution. They could possess all the knowledge in the world, but without the quiet, guiding hand of wisdom, that knowledge often led to arrogance, to conflict, and to ruin. The story of Arachne was a lesson in this. Arachne possessed a flawless encyclopedic knowledge of the weaver's craft. Her technical skill was perhaps even the equal of the goddesses, but she lacked the wisdom to understand the source of her gift, the humility to honor the divine order, and the foresight to see the tragic consequences of her own pride. Her knowledge was a tower built on a foundation of sand, and so it fell. In her guidance of Odysseus, Athena did not simply give him a map, a set of instructions, a scroll of knowledge. She fostered his own innate wisdom. She presented him with challenges that forced him to think, to adapt, to understand the hearts of his allies and his enemies. She knew that true strength came not from being given the answers, but from developing the wisdom to find the answers for yourself. This is Athena's quietest and most profound gift to us, a lesson that settles gently into the soul as we prepare for sleep. It is the reminder that the goal of a well-lived life is not just to know more, but to understand more deeply. It is an invitation to be patient with ourselves, to listen more than we speak, to observe the world with the calm, all-seeing eyes of her sacred owl. It is the understanding that true clarity does not come from the frantic accumulation of information, but from the quiet moments of reflection, when the scattered pieces of our knowledge suddenly click into place, forming a beautiful, coherent, and meaningful pattern. This is the peace that Athena offers, not the absence of problems, but the quiet inner confidence that you possess the wisdom to navigate them. It is the ultimate stillness of a clear and balanced mind, a mind that is not just full of light, but truly understands it.
In the grand pantheon of Olympus, balance was maintained through the interplay of opposing forces. For every god of the wild, untamed sea, there was a god of the firm and stable earth. For every goddess of the moonlit hunt, there was a god of the sunlit arts. And nowhere was this contrast more vivid, more fundamental, than in the divine siblings who both held dominion over the realm of human conflict, Athena and Ares. To understand Athena, one must understand that she was everything Ares was not. To see them side by side is to see the two faces of war. the two paths of conflict, and to understand the profound wisdom in the path she chose. Ares, as we have seen in other tales, was the embodiment of war's brutal physical heart. He was a being of pure, unthinking impulse. His spirit was a raging bonfire, fueled by rage, aggression, and the sheer intoxicating thrill of the fight. He loved the noise of battle, the clang of bronze on bronze, the shouts of men, the scent of blood on the wind. For him, war was an end in itself, a glorious and savage dance of destruction. He was the patron of the soldier who fights with a red mist of fury before his eyes, the one who is lost in the chaos of the moment. Athena, on the other hand, was the embodiment of war's cool, strategic mind. Her spirit was not a bonfire, but the still, intensely focused flame of a lamp in a general's tent on the eve of a battle. She felt no joy in destruction. The sounds of battle were, to her, a grim and sorrowful music, a sign of a failure in diplomacy and reason. For her, war was never the goal, but a complex, regrettable problem that required a clear and logical solution. When Ares went to war, he would wade into the thickest of the fighting, his spear a whirlwind of death, his presence inspiring a mindless, bloodthirsty frenzy in those who followed him. He was a force of chaos, his tactics blunt and overwhelming. He cared little for the cause, only for the conflict itself. When Athena went to war, she rarely stepped onto the battlefield herself. Her place was beside the king and his counselors, her voice a calm and steady presence in the war room. She would study the maps, analyze the enemy's weaknesses, and devise brilliant, intricate strategies. She fought with logic, with foresight, with a deep understanding of psychology. She inspired her chosen champions not with blind rage, but with courage born of a clear and just purpose. She would grant a hero a clever idea for a flanking maneuver, a sudden insight into the enemy's morale, or the discipline to hold a defensive line against overwhelming odds. Ares represented the passion of war. Athena represented the purpose of war. Mortals in their fear might pray to Ares for the strength to survive the bloody chaos of the front lines. But the wise kings and queens, the ones who cared for their people and the future of their cities, would pray to Athena. They prayed for the wisdom to know if a war was necessary, for the clarity to see a path to victory with the least possible loss, and for the foresight to build a lasting and meaningful peace in its aftermath. There is a quiet story that perfectly illustrates this difference. During the Great Trojan War, the gods themselves took sides. Ares, predictably, sided with the Trojans, reveling in the daily slaughter. Athena sided with the Greeks, the Achaeans, guiding her favored heroes. At one point, the mortal hero Diomedes, empowered and guided by Athena, came face to face with the god of war himself on the battlefield. A mortal fighting a god was an almost unthinkable act. But Athena, veiled in shadow, stood beside Diomedes in his chariot. She deflected Ares' mighty spear and with her own divine hand guided Diomedes' weapon. The spear struck the god of war, wounding him. Ares, the great and terrible god, bellowed in pain like 10,000 men and fled from the battlefield, flying back to Olympus to complain to his father Zeus. The lesson was clear and profound. The raw brute force of Ares, for all its fury, was defeated by a simple, well-aimed and wisely guided blow. Strategy, guided by a divine purpose, had triumphed. This is the quiet peace that Athena offers. She is the calm, steady voice that reminds us that the greatest strength is not found in the loudest roar or the most aggressive posture. It is found in a quiet, clear, and disciplined mind. She is the eternal guardian of the truth that purpose will always master passion, that strategy will always outwit chaos, and that the quiet flame of wisdom can burn brighter and longer than the most spectacular, raging fire.
The gods and goddesses of Olympus, for all their power, can sometimes feel distant, their stories like faded tapestries from a world long past. But the legacy of Athena is different. It is not confined to the pages of myth. Her spirit, her very essence, is so deeply woven into the fabric of our world that its threads are still visible today. Her legacy is written in stone, in philosophy, and in the very ideals that have shaped the best parts of human civilization. Nowhere is her physical legacy more breathtakingly real than on the high rock of the Acropolis in her beloved city, Athens. There, for nearly 2,500 years, has stood the Parthenon. It is more than a temple. It is perhaps the most perfect architectural embodiment of a deity's spirit ever created. Imagine it in its original glory, a magnificent structure of gleaming Pentelic marble, so perfectly proportioned that it seemed not to be built, but to have grown from the rock in a single harmonious thought. Its graceful columns, its intricate sculptures, its perfect mathematical balance, it was a temple dedicated not to passionate worship or fearful sacrifice, but to the celebration of the human mind and its capacity for logic, beauty, and order. The Parthenon was a prayer made of stone and geometry, a testament to Athena's ideals. Inside its grand hall once stood a colossal statue of the goddess herself, crafted by the master sculptor Phidias from ivory and pure gold. She stood tall and serene, her spear at her side, her shield at her feet, and in her outstretched hand she held a small statue of Nike, the goddess of victory. The message was clear: victory is the companion of wisdom. This was not just a house for the goddess, it was a manifestation of her very being. But her legacy extends far beyond a single building. It lives in the very air of the city that bears her name. It was in the shaded groves of Athens that the great philosophers Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle walked and taught, wrestling with the profound questions of justice, ethics, and the nature of reality. They were, in their own way, Athena's high priests, continuing her work not with rituals, but with reasoned argument and the relentless pursuit of truth. The very foundation of Western philosophy is a continuation of the conversation she started. It was in the bustling agora of Athens that the world's first democracy was born. The radical idea that a city should be governed not by the whims of a single tyrant, but by the collective wisdom and reasoned debate of its citizens is a direct political expression of Athena's spirit. The belief in law, in order, in civic duty, and in the power of the people to wisely guide their own destiny is her great gift to the world of governance. And her legacy lives on in every artist's studio, in every craftsman's workshop. The profound respect for skill, for patience, for the pursuit of excellence in one's chosen craft, this is the echo of her patronage. The idea that a well-made pot, a sturdy ship, or a beautifully woven piece of cloth has its own inherent dignity and beauty is a quiet continuation of her teachings. Unlike so many of the other gods, whose stories are often warnings about the dangers of unchecked passion, Athena's story is an eternal inspiration. She is a guiding light, a north star for the mind. She represents the highest aspirations of humanity, to be just, to be creative, to be courageous, and above all, to be wise. Her influence has not faded with the passage of time. It has simply transformed. Her spirit is present in the quiet halls of a modern library, in the focused concentration of a scientist searching for a cure, in the careful planning of a diplomat working for peace, and in the unwavering determination of a lawyer fighting for justice. She is the timeless whisper that reminds us that our greatest strength is not in our fists, but in our thoughts. She is the quiet, steadying presence that encourages us to face the chaos of the world with a calm mind and a strategic heart. The stones of her Parthenon may be weathered and worn, the gold of her statue long gone, but her true legacy, the enduring power of wisdom, is immortal, and it continues to build and shape our world in countless ways, seen and unseen.
And so, as the story of the gray-eyed goddess gently fades, let her spirit remain with you now, a quiet and steadying presence in the stillness of your room. As you lie on the threshold of sleep, let me offer you a simple blessing, a quiet wish inspired by the very essence of Athena. May your mind, which has journeyed through the complexities of the day, find its own peaceful acropolis tonight. May you rise above the noise and the chaos of your thoughts and find a place of high, serene tranquility within yourself. May the tangled knots of any worries or problems you hold begin to gently loosen. May Athena's gift of insight descend upon you, not as a bolt of lightning, but as the soft, clear light of dawn, illuminating a simple, elegant path forward that you could not see before. May you feel the strength of the olive tree taking root in your soul. May you feel your own resilience, your ability to endure the droughts and the storms of life, and your capacity to produce your own gifts of peace and nourishment for the world, no matter the circumstances. May the wisdom of the owl be yours in your dreams. May your slumber be a journey into the quiet, knowing darkness, a time for your deeper mind to sort, to understand, and to see the truths that are hidden from the hurried light of day. May you awaken with a clarity you did not possess when you lay down. May you find the courage to be your own hero's guide. May you listen to the calm, strategic voice within you, the one that counsels patience, the one that chooses its battles wisely, and the one that always seeks a just and honorable peace. And above all, may you find the grace to be at peace with your own thoughts. Let the inner battlefield grow quiet. Lay down the weapons of self-criticism and judgment. Allow the quiet, steadying presence of divine reason to settle over your mind, bringing with it a profound and restorative calm. You have thought enough for one day. You have planned enough. You have striven enough. Now is the time for the wise mind to rest, to heal, and to replenish its strength in the deep, quiet well of sleep. Let the peace of the goddess be your shield tonight, protecting you from all that is troubled and all that is chaotic. Rest now, quiet thinker. Your work is done. The mind is now still. The final thoughts have faded. The great library is closed for the night. Let the quiet descend. Let the darkness be a soft blanket for your thoughts. There is only the steady, silent rhythm of your breath, a quiet and constant truth. The deep, dreamless sleep of the wise awaits you. Rest now. Be at peace. Sleep well.